Well, hello there, and welcome to an opinionated review for the new RuneScape game. Let's just hop on into it, shall we? RuneScape Dragonwilds, is it worth it? Well, if you want a simple answer right now, no. No, it is not. And if that's all you wanted, thanks for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like down below or hit that subscribe button. However, if you'd like to know a little more in detail, stick around and I'll let you know a little more of my opinions in the game. And I will preface before dogging on the game that I think this game has great potential, and I thoroughly enjoy the original RuneScape, and I put thousands of hours into it, and I have not beaten everything in this game, so don't pound me too hard on that. Speaking of previous games, though, this isn't the first game that these developers have made. They've actually made a massively successful MMO by the same name of RuneScape, though if you have lived under a rock or were just born within the last 20 years, you may not know that. It has been a very prosperous game for quite some time, which actually makes what they gave us here very sad in the attempt on release, considering what they have at their disposal. To be honest, the game feels like any generic survival game spat out on Steam, with not much uniqueness other than a few moments of, oh, that's actually in the other game as well. But even simple things when starting the game seem lazy and honestly just make the game look kind of bad, such as the starting weapons being a generic club instead of, I don't know, a bronze dagger or a sword, which they have at the very beginning of the actual RuneScape MMO, already on their tutorial island to start the game. Not to mention that there is no smelting in the game right out the gate to make weapons in a unique way like they do in the MMO. Making these weapons this way would start out very strong for players for nostalgia and people that still play RuneScape regularly, and it wouldn't hurt a new audience. It would just be interesting and new for the survival genre of this game. It would be unique and make it feel more like RuneScape. Speaking of weapons, unfortunately, most of the melee weapons seem pretty generic instead of the huge roster of weapons they've made for the past 20 years on their MMO. Don't get me wrong, there are some exceptions. However, why not just run the gauntlet on the equipment they've already made? Bronze, iron, steel, mithril, so on and so forth, instead of the generic club and knife that you start with, plus it continues the club and knife going forward, just in more generic weaponry, which doesn't make any sense. On a confusing note, though, magic is in the game and interesting, but it seems to make no sense in many ways. In one respect, it's nice that it uses runes, which is from the original game, which they're still mined and made from rune essence, which is unique to RuneScape. However, there are unique gathering spells that have massive cooldowns, which seem really unnecessary, while battle spells, once you've acquired a staff, do not. I'm not saying I want them to, but it just seems odd for one to have it and not the other, especially when spells are so powerful overall in the early game. We can destroy wood with our fucking wood spell with a 45-second cooldown. It's, fancy like this, but 45-second cooldown, kind of pain about just for crafting. Can't level up magic, which is dumb, but they've added a bunch of magic stuff. So you're telling me that's a 45-second cooldown, but this isn't a cooldown. I can just...
but there's a cut wood.
We also have to talk about the skill system, to be honest. If anyone watching this has never played the original RuneScape, there are a multitude of skills which are a highlight of the game, and they've attempted to bring that highlight over to this one as well. The only problem is there's only 9 skills. I mean, technically there's only 7 skills because magic and archery, 2 main damage archetypes, aren't even working in the game yet for some reason. This problem is only worsened by the fact that none of the skills get any use past like 49 at the moment. Some of them actually are much lower, like rune crafting, which is basically the magic skill right now, which only goes to about 27 before it becomes obsolete. This is actually completely unforgivable, in my opinion, in the release state of the game that it is, when they have an entire template ready to go from a game they've made for over 20 years, and it just seems like it should have never been released in this state, and honestly kind of seems cash grabby. I do like RuneScape, so I don't want to say that too much, but it just seems that way. The game feels rather lifeless overall, and could really use some more simple NPCs to trade with in the beginning for simple bronze, weaponry, and armor, and a currency system. And I believe the starting area should be fleshed out a little more to feel perhaps maybe like a town or a camp with a trader or something. Maybe even add multiple starting points with different towns and quests. I do understand that it's a survival game at its core, however, they could easily add some extra RuneScape elements to their game to make it a little more unique. Another issue I was having was with friends, actually, It's when we had any kind of traversal with the weight system. I understand a lot of survival games, even well-known ones, have a weight system. However, this game just seems to be extra limited with it. The very early game, you don't notice it too much, but as soon as you start a dungeon, well, as soon as you start dungeon diving, it becomes very apparent, especially when you can make lodestones, which are craftable teleports that you can place around the map, which is helpful, but the materials needed for it, however, take up a third of your weight, which just feels terrible. It may have been okay if the items needed to make the portal weren't so special, but since they're so specific, you have to carry the heaviest item around with you around the map if you ever want to be ready to make a teleport back to base. Which is unfortunately necessary, since in this game you also have a well-rested meter, which as you play the game, the longer your character doesn't rest, you lose stats like maximum stamina, stamina regen, which also felt kind of like a waste of time, especially if you're playing with friends. Some friends may be well-rested while others aren't, and then everybody has to stop while your adventure keeps going on, or they leave you. And yes, I know there's a spell in the game that lets you summon a small camp, which is cool, but altogether, really, it just slowed the gameplay down and added nothing else to the game, which was unfortunately kind of just lame. All in all, the game has many glaring flaws that honestly shouldn't have been there on the game's release, and hopefully Jagex actually wants this game to succeed and will issue some serious updates to this game quickly. Then maybe this game can shine as a bright survival game of the future, but until then, this game will just sink into the many other lifeless survival crafting games that populate the market. This game, in my opinion, and I believe many others, came out of the easy bake oven a little too early, and it will hurt its future impressions even if it comes back as one of the best survival games ever made, which I do hope it happens because I do enjoy RuneScape. So unfortunately, I think Jagex has put themselves in an uphill battle since they released the game in this state. So to fully answer what I asked at the beginning, is this game worth it? No, I don't believe it is. The game's worth no money as of this time unless you just want to be a game tester or you just don't believe anybody else that tells you otherwise. This game is not ready to be bought and to be shared with everyone else unless you just have to see it, which is saddening. But with all of that, I thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button or subscribe. I mostly play games on this channel, but if everyone enjoys this type of content, I may do it some more in the future with other games. And I'll see you guys for whatever we do next. See you later.